24.2a, I rise to give the following statements on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met today, Tuesday, 1st April 2024, to prioritize business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, allow me to officially welcome members back from the short recess. I trust that members are well rejuvenated and ready for this new session. As we embark on the business ahead of us, Honorable Speaker, we still have a significant number of good legislative proposals, bills and other statutory instruments that most certainly need our keen attention. Therefore, the collective effort of every member and every committee is critical for the realization of our constitutional mandate bestowed upon us by the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, as members may recall, before we went on recess, I undertook to schedule the appearance of cabinet secretaries before this House to reply to members' questions and provide reports. In this regard, I wish to convey that in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, 5 and 6, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, the Honorable Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, is scheduled to appear before the House during the afternoon sitting of tomorrow, Wednesday, 2nd April 2025, to respond to questions as follows. So, Honorable Speaker, the following questions will be replied to tomorrow by the Honorable Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, the CS for Interior National Administration. Question by private notice number 005-2025 by the member for Tiati, the Honorable William Kamket, MP, regarding reviewing academic and other qualifications for the appointment of chiefs and assistant chiefs in marginal areas in the country. Question number 6 of 2025 by the member for Tiati, again, the Honorable William Kamket, MP, regarding actions taken by the ministry against police officers who were involved in the incident that led to indiscriminately shooting of cows belonging to Mr. Tesio Chepande of ID number 34184906 in Lemuyek Village, Chemuro sublocation. Question number 7, Honorable Speaker, by the member for Bumula, the Honorable Wanami Wamboka, MP, regarding the report on funds the government has spent to acquire and implement the electronic travel authorization, the FTA, the ETA system. Question number 26, 2025, by the member for Kilome, the Honorable Thaddeus Nzambia, MP, regarding the criteria used to gazette Nzai sublocation in Makueni constituency via Gazette Notice number 17 of 2024, contrary to the agreement made by the community to retain Nzai sublocation in Kilome constituency. Question number 27 of 2025 by the member for Kuresoi South, the Honorable Joseph Tonui, MP, regarding status reports on the operationalization of the administrative units in Kuresoi South constituency. Question number 28 of 2025 by the member for Isiolo, the Honorable Mumina Bonaya, MP, regarding update on the operationalization of newly created administrative units in Isiolo County that were gazetted in March 2022. Question number 29 of 2025 by the member for Kabondo Kasipul, the Honorable Eve Obare, MP, regarding the measures taken by the ministry to enhance safety and security of residents in Kabondo Kasipul constituency. Question number 30 of 2025 by the member for Gilgil, the Honorable Martha Wangari, CBS MP, regarding provisions of a detailed report on the status of investigation into the death of Mr. Justice Ekimomor Omolo. Question number 31 of 2025 by the member for Nyaribari Masaba, the Honorable Daniel Manduku, MP, regarding status of gazettement and deployment of security personnel to Ichuni Police Station in Ichuni Ward, Nyaribari Masaba constituency. Honorable Speaker, question number 32, 2025, by the member for Mwatate, the Honorable Peter Mbogo, MP, regarding status of investigations to the incidents of security within Sagala Ward in Taita Taveta county. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, question number 33, 2025, by the member for Matungu, the Honorable Peter Nabulindo MP, regarding status of the investigations into the insecurity incidences reported in Matungu constituency. Honorable Speaker, I urge members, Mr. Honorable Speaker, members whose questions are listed for reply to avail themselves in the House tomorrow to ask their questions. Members whose questions have been listed, please avail yourselves tomorrow so that your questions can be replied to. Honorable Speaker, I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House today. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay.
Thank you, Baya. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, nominees to 63 National Government Constituencies Development Fund committees.
Musa Sirma. Now, when you move your motion, after you get to the word fund, on the last line, you are not obligated to read all the 63 constituencies plus the names. Simply say of the 63 constituencies and the list thereat as shown on the order paper.
Thank you.
It will be understood. Go ahead now and move your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the guidance. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move that pursuant to the provision of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraphs 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approved the list of nominees for appointment to the following 63 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. Mr. Speaker, the names of the various constituencies are appended on the order paper from constituency number 1 of Ainapkoi constituency to Westlands constituency, which is the 63 constituency as per the order paper. Mr. Speaker, these names are necessary for the operationalization of the National Government Constituency Fund, and especially, Mr. Speaker, that we have given the NGCDF board has released some money which are meant for the bursaries, Mr. Speaker. And yet it is not sufficient, but of course you cannot operationalize the same because we lack signatories to these funds because the term for the previous committees have expired, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know members are having it difficult, and especially the funds, CDFCs in the various constituencies, in terms of paying of bursaries to the students. Mr. Speaker, the amount of money we have received so far is only 14 billion out of the 54 billion we expect to receive this year. And yet we are in the final quarter of disbursement, Mr. Speaker. It is time that the National Treasury releases the balance of this money so that development can go on. We have various classes, especially for grade 9, and also preparation for the next year's grade 10 in the various secondary schools to expand them, Mr. Speaker, that unless this money is released timely and to be able to support the various educational needs in the various constituencies, the emergency needs, Mr. Speaker, especially now there are rains, roofs are leaking, toilets are sinking, and all the other infrastructure which require to be supported by this fund, Mr. Speaker. We need National Treasury to look at it and be able to give us enough funding to be able to disperse to every constituency. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Who is seconding you?
Seconded by Honorable, let me ask Murugara, the Chair of Legal committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to second the motion that this House does approve the various committees that are set out in the order paper so that every constituency amongst the 63 now has a functional NGCDF committee and its functions can proceed and mandate is actually discharged. With those remarks, I beg to second.
Members on their feet, take your seats. Naisula, take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question at order number 8, which is that pursuant to the provisions of section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraphs 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 63 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. The list of the constituencies and the nominees is appended to the order paper herein. I put the question? Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, which is that pursuant to the provisions of section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraphs 5, 2, and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approved the list of nominees for appointment to the following 63 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. The list of constituencies and nominees being appended to the order paper herein. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next.
Order number 9, the Excise Duty Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2025, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Excise Duty Act and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2025, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Value Added Tax Act and for connected purposes. Order number 11, motion, public petition on legal recognition and protection of e-hailing motorcycle riders and delivery personnel, resumption of debate.
Who was on the floor? Yes, Okello, what is it?
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I may have inadvertently lost the thread of events because I was waiting for questions and statements. But Honorable Speaker, due to your indulgence, Honorable Speaker, I thank you. It will be 11th time, Honorable Speaker, if you will give the classification of
hardship areas.
Of hardship areas.
Take your seat.
All right.
You have overflogged that issue. Take your seat.
Thank you.
Majority Leader, in the course of this week, ensure that you bring a response or a statement on the criteria for classification of areas of various parts of this country as hardship areas. Jared Okello, the member for Ahero, has been flogging this issue, and member for Nyando. Ahero is your headquarter. Yes, and many other members have been raising similar issues, including the distinguished lady from Gilgil, Mwashako from Tavet, from Undanyi, Katana from Ganze, and many, many members. So are you able to bring the statement on a report on Thursday. Better still, Honorable Owen Bayer, the minister responsible for classification of hardship areas, is appearing here tomorrow afternoon to answer questions that you have listed. If you are able to communicate to him that the House anticipates also a statement on this classification, I can give him an opportunity to appraise the House on the criteria used. Yes, Wanjala. Just hold. Get a mic,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the same, when they classify a place as a hardship area, they have been discriminatory. They have been discriminatory to other government officers, and they have only been paying teachers. Yet the same government officers, the police, the other government officers, the agricultural officers, the DCCs, the assistant chiefs, and so on, also work in the same areas. So would you also tell us, the House, that actually they will pay any government officer hardship allowance within that area, not only teachers?
Panjala, it will be very dangerous for the country to go that route. Is there any place that can be classified as a hardship for a policeman? Their duty is to work everywhere and protect people. Or a DC. Unless you want to declare everywhere hardship. I will not encourage that. Yes, Gisairo? Did I see you raise your hand?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, it was not on this issue.
Or something different?
Yes, because I was...
So take your seat. Yes, yes, Chepalungu. Honorable Mandazi.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. While I appreciate the report that will be brought by the leader of majority on Thursday, I equally want to put myself. I had done a petition, and I would wish maybe then we get to know how far the petition has gone.
On the same issue?
Yes, on the same issue.
Mwashako? Give Honorable Mwashako the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to praise the House that this House approved a petition to make Undanyi, Taveta, and parts of Mwatate constituency to be hardship for our teachers. After this House approved, Honorable Speaker, I'm expecting the minister who is coming in tomorrow to, if not to declare any other place hardship, at least declare the one that this House had approved, Honorable Speaker.
Mwashako.
Thank you.
Your constituency is one of the greenest and most beautiful parts of this country. Is it hardship, really?
And that is the misnomer around this issue, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
We did a petition, and the TSC and an interministerial team visited Taita Taveta.
Yes.
And particularly my constituency. 40% of my constituency happens to be the highlands.
Yes.
That receives moderate rainfall. But the 60% of my constituency is extremely hardship. And not only hardship, Honorable Speaker, we are the worst in terms of human-wildlife conflicts, claims and challenges and killings, Honorable Speaker. So therefore, Honorable Speaker, it can deceive when you come to Undanyi town and imagine that the constituency is evergreen. It's only a fraction.
Yes.
And then, Honorable Speaker, if you allow me to add, there are parts of Mwatate, I agree with Honorable Wanjala, to the extent that sometimes they will take a constituency to be hardship and leave out just a zone, a small fraction of that constituency, and this creates an imbalance where no teacher wants to work in that area, Honorable Speaker. And I'm talking about Ronge zone in Mwatate constituency. And that's why I, as the minister comes, Honorable Speaker, and I truly want to beseech you to support Taita Taveta, that's Mwatate, Ronge, Undanyi, and Taveta, because this House pronounced itself in last term that those areas require to be hardship for our teachers. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Katana. Give to Katana. Next to you, yes.
Asante, Bwana Speaker. Kwanza nataka nisahishe, mimi ni mbunge wa Kaloleni na si Ganze. Ganze yuko hapa. Bwana Spika, mwaka jana niliuliza swali kuhusu mambo ya sehemu ambazo ziko na ugumu, na ukatoa mwelekeo wakati huo, ukamwambia kiongozi wa wengi aweze kuleta majibu. Sasa imefika Bwana Spika, ni zaidi ya miezi 6 tangu useme maneno hayo, kwa sababu ukiangalia jirani yangu Ganze imesajiliwa kama sehemu ambayo ni ngumu zaidi, na Ganze na Kaloleni wanapata shida zile zile ambazo watu wa Ganze wanapata. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, kiongozi wa wengi ajue kwamba kuna watu alichukulia swala hilo umuhimu zaidi, kwa sababu kuna watu wetu wengi ambao wanaumia, haswa sehemu za Kayafungo, Mwanamwinga na Mariakani na Kaloleni. Asante Bwana Spika.
Tende Mwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as much as my colleagues are more concerned about the hardship areas, I think it's prudent that we don't preempt or try to coach the minister on what the minister should tell us. So we leave it at that. We move to the next order and we listen to the minister tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Yes, Hassan. Thank you, Tindi, for helping the chair. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully agree with you that, in fact, this has been overstretched in the fact that there are some really troubled places which staff need some support. There are arid areas that need some help. But to be honest, I find that in this House we're getting a bit greedy, in the sense that places, beautiful places like Taita Taveta, are demanding to be included in this category, and many other places. Let's be fair to underdeveloped areas of our country that really need support in that sense, rather than overstretching ourselves to include every district in our country.
Chonga.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. This subject is very interesting, Mr. Speaker. As much as you can see that Taita Taveta is green, I'm very sure Kwale there is very dry. The challenge comes in, and I'm actually a victim of this. The challenge comes in that most teachers like to be transferred to the hardship areas. So it leaves the greener area very much vulnerable. You find performance in the areas where it's green is vulnerable because there are not sufficient teachers, there are no facilities. All the teachers are moving to the hardship areas. This is a matter that needs to be addressed. It has highly affected Kilifi South in a big way. So I think as we wait for this, for the minister to come and address this issue, we actually need to take it as a parliament to address that, so that some areas are not left as enclaves. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the term hardship and hardship allowance has been abused over the years. Speaker, can I request for your protection from my good neighbor here? Mr. Speaker, I say the term hardship and hardship allowance has been abused, just like sessional paper number 10 of 1965 has been abused. It is the high time that we think out of the box and accept the reality that Kenya is a country of diverse environmental, climatic conditions, Mr. Speaker. And this reality, once it sinks, just like right now what is happening to equalization. Mr. Speaker, you are a renowned constitutional lawyer. I want you just to reflect on these abuses and clamor for every area to be defined as a hardship area and everybody to get hardship allowance vis-a-vis what has happened to equalization. Then when shall we have a country united by its diversity? Mr. Speaker, as the minister comes, I want to plead. Let's bring this thing to an end once and for all. You remember, Mr. Speaker, over the last few years, the issue of teachers and posting of teachers actually to regions in northern Kenya has been abused just because of the allowances or even because of the definition. Isn't it the high time that we as the leadership, in particular members of the National Assembly here, accept that Wajir is different from Baringo. Wajir is different from Laikipia. Laikipia is different from Bungoma. Mombasa is different from Nairobi. This reality must sink in our heads so that we have a country that depends on the strength of its diversity, the diversity of the people, the diversity of its climatic conditions. Mr. Speaker, somebody said, and this is my remark, my concluding remark. If you look at Kenya, Kenya has the 8 wonders of the world. You have regions that are as semi-arid as where we come from. We have coastal region. We have mountainous areas. We have the plainland. We have the Rift Valley. Mr. Speaker, this reality, these regions cannot be the same. So I want to plead with the leadership and whoever is going to bring this answer tomorrow to be firm, to be decisive, and once and for all, bring this issue to rest that has been abused. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Go on.
Constitution, Mr. Speaker, the current constitution, I remember you are there. One of the things that we fought for, Mr. Speaker, under the current constitution, some people wanted pure presidential system, and you know, others wanted a pure parliamentary system. But for those of us who have suffered as a result of as a result of the old constitution, Mr. Speaker, coined the idea of having devolution, equalization. Devolution, I'm sorry to say, it's not working as expected. Equalization has been abused. The definition of arid and semi-arid areas and these other hardship areas has been abused. Then, when are we going to have a country with equity, a country with the same developmental phase, a country that appreciates the uniqueness of every region? Mr. Speaker, under your leadership, and I know you have done a lot. Today, your members maybe are not aware that the Supreme Court, on the issue of NCDF, I don't know whether my good friend here, who is also a seasoned lawyer, is briefing to the Supreme Court decision. Mr. Speaker, that conclusion on the CDF and many other things defines certain things within our governance structure. Mr. Speaker, I want to believe with you under your leadership. Don't leave it to the CSs. Can you guide them to bring this thing to an end once and for all so that there is predictability, there is certainty, and there is a guarantee of what happens to whoever will fall under that definition? I support Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Pareo. Pareo, then Maclap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this issue on the hardship area. I remember last year I brought this issue before this House that my constituency qualifies to be a hardship area. Why I say so is because teachers are running away from the schools. Because in my neighboring constituencies, they are all beneficiaries of hardship allowances. But in Narok North, we have not had an area that is benefiting for the hardship areas. And when you look at the teachers in that constituency, they really suffer a lot. Because the kilometers they travel, because we have no roads. And when we look at these teachers, when they get to the schools, they have no houses in the schools. So they live in the centers. So the problems they go through are more than what they earn. So I'm asking you, Mr. Speaker, to consider Narok North, and at the same time, I've been waiting for the answer from the minister himself because he came here. I asked that question. I have never gotten a reply to that question. So I stand to say that Narok North qualifies to be a hardship area, and especially when the other neighboring constituencies are benefiting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think from the definition of what the Honorable from Nyando wanted is the criteria onto which this classification is done in the country and how it can be applied. Mr. Speaker, if we define hardship place or an hardship area for hardship allowance as per the degree of hotness or coldness, then we are missing the point. Mr. Speaker, we should actually be defining hardship areas as per availability of road network, electricity, goods and services, movement, transport. We should be looking at even congestion, Mr. Speaker. Even Nairobi here is an hardship area because it is too congested. The cost of living is very expensive. It is an hardship area, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm looking at is, Mr. Speaker, let us look at the whole country. Today, the cost of living in Kenya is already an hardship for everybody, Mr. Speaker, including where children are born, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, there is critical need to actually apply hardship across the Republic of Kenya so that every person in this country who is facing hardship in any way or the other will be able to benefit, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, this could be a selective injustice to parts of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, if we have to apply hardship in accordance to degree of the sun or hotness and coldness of a place, Mr. Speaker, then we miss the point in the entire country of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we need to fix this matter so that, for example, Mr. Speaker, Baringo is an hardship area. But there is one sub-county called Eldama Ravine, which does not have an hardship area, and yet the neighbors of Elgeyo Marakwet, where it experiences the same degree of coldness like Timbarua and Elgeyo Marakwet, they get hardship allowance. It is a discrimination. And then now, employees of the government move from that particular area to other areas looking for a better package, Mr. Speaker. So unless we think about Kenya holistically, then we can be able to have something not hardship allowance, but something that can be applied for all civil servants and employees of government across Kenya based on the degree of cost of living and accessibility to the most basic needs of human life. When we do like that, then we can make Kenya equal for all of us, Mr. Speaker. That is the only way we want to bring this thing. Otherwise, it will continue to become an inequality for Kenya and an injustice for part of the country, Mr. Speaker. Let us think broadly. Let us think in a way that it can be able to sort the whole country, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, very soon, we shall classify areas as banditry area, and we need bandit allowance because we suffer from bandit allowance. Others will have Al-Shabaab allowance because there are issues of Al-Shabaab. Let us look at for something that will bring uniformity across the country and every employee of government, because of the accessibility of the things that I have said, Mr. Speaker, can work for you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of hardship allowance and areas being declared hardship areas may possibly today be termed a historical injustice. It dates back to just days after independence, when the then Minister for Economic Planning and Development, the late Joseph Thomas Boyer, came up with the sessional paper number 1 of 1965. This is where, for the first time, it was proposed that areas that are productive have to get more resources than the areas that are less productive. And to compensate those areas that are less productive, the issue of hardship was introduced. Unfortunately, even as we speak today, if we go by the way we do our budgets, you will find that some counties that are considered to be more productive do get the chunk of our budget, while those that are thought to be less productive get very little. This is unjust. It cannot be protected anymore, and we should be thinking about it. Number 2, you'll find that there are areas declared as hardship, like my constituency, Tharaka, as applies to teachers and the judicial service staff. Next door is a sub-county known as Egambangombe, which is exactly like Tharaka, and yet they do not get hardship allowance. When we look at it across the country, it is unfair, it is unjust, and it should now be equalized so that areas that are hardship, are less productive, are given more resources to catch up with other areas in Kenya so that we have some parity of some sort. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Wangare, very last.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The reason you see this issue recurring, Mr. Speaker, is because of the mystery that has been surrounding this issue of hardship area. Mr. Speaker, last term, we asked the same questions that we are asking today. First of all, it was even difficult to know who does the classification. In any case, it was taken to TSC. We thought it is the Ministry of Education. Then it was taken back to the Ministry of Interior, Mr. Speaker. Even to know the person in charge was a problem. That is why you see members feeling very jittery, because this is an issue that has been shrouded in mystery, and the ones that are benefiting, Mr. Speaker, do not want the issue opened up. And Mr. Speaker, you cannot say that the Kenya of before devolution is also the same the way it was in the 60s or the 70s, Mr. Speaker. There are areas that were classified as a hardship area that time, and yet today, with devolution and the development that has gone on, are no longer hardship areas, Mr. Speaker. So this mystery is what the CS must declassify, Mr. Speaker. Let us know the parameters that were used. Do they change? And who does the change, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, if you remember, the issue of the Kenya police when we were discussing their housing, it was applied across the country, Mr. Speaker, because some people would look at, say, Gilgil and say it is not a hardship area. But, Mr. Speaker, there is a teacher from Gilgil town who will need 2 hours or more to get to a school, say in Guashati, say in some place called Dogonoi, Mr. Speaker. But what we need from the ministry tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, what are the parameters? Have these parameters changed? And more importantly, what is the periodic review is applied, Mr. Speaker, so that we know how do you qualify? Because what we are having today, Mr. Speaker, is that teachers are moving from any area without a hardship allowance, Mr. Speaker. Those in the hardship allowance area even bribe their way to stay there. So you'll get a teacher staying until they retire because they don't want to be moved from that area. Mr. Speaker, that way then we'll be dealing with the whole country and be able to make a way forward instead of having this issue over and over every parliament, Mr. Speaker. From last term, from 11th parliament, we are still talking about it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Owen Bayer, you hear this, all these cries from various members. And from where I sit, it's a question of poor management. When somebody looks for a public job, be it a teacher, a policeman, they say, I am ready to work anywhere and everywhere. Then now you are crying that they are running away. How can somebody run away from his job without authority? It is a question of management, but tell your minister to come and tell us the criteria of classification of hardship areas. The classic case of Jared Okello. If you know the geography of his area, Ahero is not hardship. Nyakach, which is even a better area than Ahero, is classified as hardship. That's what he has been telling us here. Muhoroni, which is a settlement, very productive agricultural area, is hardship. Ahero, ravaged by floods every year, is not. That is the kind of issue that you should be dealing with. So if you find that your minister will have sufficient time, we'll give him tomorrow to deal with this issue for at least 30 minutes before he goes to the rest of the questions. Unless you have any other idea to give us.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much, and I share the sentiments and agree with what is being said, although I can see two different sides. But Honorable Speaker, my thinking is that the Minister for Interior may not be the right person. The Minister for Public Service. Public Service, yes, and...
is it public service?
Yes, public service.
If it's public service...
Yes, so...
The designated minister
and the designated minister is here. Probably we will require him to bring the report here. Immediately he's sworn in. But Honorable Speaker, again...
Hold on, Owen. There's a point of order from...
Honorable Speaker, what we are talking to now, or about now, concerns a report that was done by a multi-agency team that was headed by Public Service, Honorable Speaker. Mm-hmm. Now, the report delved into areas where the hardship is deserving and therefore informed a new gazettement of those areas, Honorable Speaker. So the report had already been done by the multi-agency team, which was actually headed by one Mr. Sylvester Bolo. And the report is with Public Service here. So that is what I have always been agitating for, to be brought before this House for discussion. But I do know and understand that there are many areas that could have been left out in that report, and therefore it will form part of our discussion of that particular report, Honorable Speaker.
Point made.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
Owen.
Yeah, what I want to say, Honorable Speaker,
yes.
the Department of Personnel Management within the Ministry of Public Service is actually the right place.
So when do you want to bring the minister here?
Probably if we could plan for him to come next week, I think, but now we don't have a substantive minister in the office. Probably you need to give us time. But also the information I had talked to the previous minister about the same thing.
In the absence of the minister, you can summon the Prime Cabinet Secretary to come and respond.
All right. So much obliged. We'll write to the Cabinet Secretary, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, to come and respond on the same, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, allow me, hold on, Gisairo, to acknowledge in the public gallery the following institutions. Karatina University students, I believe, from Madira, Nyeri. Ngaihia Comprehensive School from Oljororok, Nyandarua. Kimchul Secondary School from Bomet, East Bomet. MCK Wesley Boarding School from South Imenti, Meru. Ndamene Junior School from South Imenti, Meru. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Yes, Gisairo?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also had expected we're going to have statements, so I wanted to raise at that point. Honorable Speaker, I am following these, following what my chair in the CDF committee has presented here, whereby we've passed a motion and agreeing to the formation of those CDFCs. Honorable Speaker, the reality is we are now in the last quarter of this financial year. While in Naivasha, I remember very well, the CS had promised that he was going to send 7 billion twice in the month of February, and then 7 billion on a monthly basis up to the end of the financial year. Honorable Speaker, as we speak up to today, the board has only received 7 billion last year, and the second disbursement of 7 billion